Did theropod dinosaurs lick the cloacas of their prey? Hey everyone, Mike here with Prehistoric Magazine. Now this is kind of a disgusting topic, kind of a disgusting video, but a very essential one nonetheless. And as we get into this topic and, the fact that this is a prehistoric topic, of course there's no easy answer. That's why your comments are so vital to this channel. If you've taken a moment over some of these videos to make a comment, greatly appreciate you. If you can continue making comments, even be more appreciative. And if you've never commented and you're watching, love to hear your take on the topic of this video. Now, for the last 2-3 weeks, over the Christmas break, over New Year's, I started watching a lot of videos of lions hunting in Africa, of hyenas, of the painted dogs, just all of it. And even though that's not dinosaurs, to me it's nature in its most rawest form. And I feel like we can learn a lot from watching a pride of lions, scatter wildebeest and, just cause panic and chaos in the herd in an effort to potentially separate and isolate and even confuse the youngsters. And I'd love to see something like this in Prehistoric Planet 3. I'm getting a little bit away from myself with the topic of this video, but nonetheless, these videos of people on safari in Africa, I think, have been very beneficial to myself in understanding, what might have taken place in the prehistoric past. Now, if you ever watched lions feed or any of the really big predators in Africa, they eat from the anus. Most of the times the kills are taken down from the butt, and even lions have been known to lick the anus clean of dirt, feces, and just debris before they eat. It's almost like we do our meat prep. That's how they prep the animal in order to eat it. And if you've never seen it, it's kind of disturbing. It's definitely not the Discovery Channel I grew up with as a kid, which is I thought that the prey was long dead and, here are the lions eating, but they are alive when they decide to eat you, in the words of Dr. Grant. And it's pretty vicious. Again, it's nature in its most rawest form. There's no good or bad. There just is. There's animals that were created to eat meat, and there's animals that were created for those animals to eat meat. Now, to the topic of this video, do we think that, let's say a sauropod was down? I think this is kind of the cool part of this video, is that let's use Acrocanthosaurus as an example. I love that animal, and I've been pushing hard for it over the last year or so. If we do get Prehistoric Planet 3, I'd love to see Acrocanthosaurus. Now, let's say that Acrocanthosaurus, a small pack of them, was very similar to modern-day lions. And let's say that Sauroposeidon, the enormous sauropod of North America that it lived alongside, was something like a herd of wildebeest. A big herd of Sauroposeidons, and there's a family or a pack of Acrocanthosaurs, and they're kind of harassing this herd. They're flushing them and they're pushing them to move quickly and causing chaos and panic. Now, we can hypothesize that they could potentially take one down, and that'd be a really cool video for a future one, creating panic, just like lions create panic in wildebeest. And that's all in an effort to confuse and isolate. I believe theropods would have done the same thing. Again, just my personal take on it. But what I'm talking about with respect to this video is the fact that we know that sauropods would have died. They would have gone down, they would have fallen ill, they would have been down. Now, would the cloaca, the reproductive organ and the organ for feces and all of that, would the cloaca have been a beneficial area for theropods to start biting into? If you have a giant sauropod laying down on the ground, it's a walking mountain of muscle and meat, fat, and where do you even begin with these thick hides that they more than likely had? So where do you begin? That's a great entry point. And again, if you look back to a lot of these kills in Africa on these game reserves in Kenya, on the Serengeti, that's basically the starting point a lot of times. That's where that hole begins. And before you know it, that hole is opened wide, and there's a lot of hungry mouths feeding from that open hole. So kind of what I'm getting at is, do we think that, a big theropod like an Acrocanthosaurus would have began feeding from the cloaca of a downed sauropod? Now, again, there's no easy answers to this. That's why the comments are so vital. If you're watching this, highly would appreciate you leaving a comment, leaving your thoughts on this down in the comment section down below. But, this idea of theropods feasting and beginning to eat a cloaca, it seems very reminiscent of, these modern day lions. And again, in asking around and doing preparation for this video, some were quick to point out that lions are vastly different than dinosaurs, theropods. And while I do believe that's true, I still think it's life and it's predators picking off prey, confusing prey. A newborn is born, they don't really know where they're going, they're running around, they get confusing, they get taken down. I don't think that story would have changed even 110 million years ago in, say, somewhere like Oklahoma with Acrocanthosaurus. So I don't think that theme would have changed even if we go back, and still playing out to this day. But I just think, from my own personal take, that would have been a great starting point as far as opening up some of these big carcasses. Now, can Acrocanthosaurus take down one of these sauropods? That's another question. But we know that they probably would have been feasting on them, because if they would have lived in the same environment, there would have been an opportunity to have a downed one, and you stumble upon it. How do you begin to open that animal up? How do you begin to, penetrate it and break into it? And even, in future videos, if we start talking about this topic a little bit more, you look at lions and they attack from the rear. I'm not saying that there aren't lions that jump on top of the back of a Cape buffalo or a wildebeest, but a lot of times there's one lion trying to drag it down and trying to nip at that butt region. That's the soft, tender area, and that area is kind of vulnerable to attack, and therefore it's a great way for them to start feasting. Now, again, in preparation for this video, in asking around for my contacts, would the tail of a sauropod like Sauroposeidon have been in the way? You think about a wildebeest, you think about a Cape buffalo, they have little wispy little tails. Basically, the anus is exposed. Now, with the sauropods, or even other dinosaurs, but especially the sauropods, think about how big this tail is. So really what I'm asking is, a big theropod's walking around and it has a downed sauropod like Sauroposeidon, do you think a great entryway to begin feasting would be through the cloaca? Or do we think that heavy, cumbersome tail would have just been in the way? It's really kind of hard to visualize, just how big some of these tails are of some of these sauropods. They weighed dozens upon dozens of tons, probably. If you're thinking about an animal like Sauroposeidon, I don't know what the calculations are for the tail, but it had to weigh many, many, many tons. And would that have been in the way of gaining access to that cloaca, gaining access to probably what would be the soft, tender, exposed spot of the animal? Great way to feed, in my opinion. So again, love to hear your take on this. If you haven't watched any of these lion kills in Africa, if you haven't watched any of these hyena kills, you haven't watched any of these painted dogs in Africa, it is very graphic, I will warn people, but I think it's beneficial to what we do on this channel, which is we're trying to understand the prehistoric past. And what better way to do it than understanding modern day predators versus modern day prey, and some of the tactics and struggles that they face back and forth. So love to hear your take on this. Big theropod like Acrocanthosaurus with the cloaca have been a great way to gain access and begin eating that downed animal. Love to hear your thoughts. See you down in the comment section down below. And quick reminder, if you'd like to support this channel is currently not monetized. I'm going to be being a little bit more vocal about my books, my prehistoric thriller novels. They're down in the comment section down below if you'd like to take a look on Amazon. Love to have you potentially read one. It's definitely been my goal over the last 15 years to get one of these prehistoric thriller novels turned into a movie. In order to do that, I got to sell a lot of books, and a lot of times I put all my book royalties back into Prehistoric Magazine as well as this YouTube channel. Again, appreciate your support. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.